be not specific to them. And we also saw that you will listen to the other speakers who will give specific examples of this. And these are not, like I said, pilots, but large-scale implementations. Now, advisory is one of the use cases that we saw. So this report will include a compendium of more than 70 use cases, and it will be a live repository. Here you will see use cases ranging from R&D to input supply optimization to how production is getting modernized, how AI is being used for reducing post-harvest losses, and how AI can also help in even distribution and logistics. We also see there are a few applications in nutrition and consumption, even though that we didn't completely cover in the report. We make a very small mention of it, but we see that also as a very exciting agenda. But maybe for the next version of the report, we will include that. This compendium of use cases, we have also classified and categorized these use cases so it becomes more easy to discover and to see what is already deployed, what is being tested, what is still in an experimental phase, so that you can learn from these deployments, but also see what might be applicable in your region or in your country of interest. All these applications that I just showed, we see that it has impact across the value chain. So we are seeing that AI is making it easier to do research and making it faster to get to insights. We see that AI is helping us get better yields and better resource optimization. We see reduced losses, improving quality of produce. We also see increased market efficiency and reduced spoilage. Some of the use cases, like I mentioned, also include improved nutrition and informed consumption as the impact. And we have really focused on documenting the impact of these use cases. So you will see in the repository, one full section is on the impact itself, because in many cases, impact is not available. We decided not to include them in the repository. And in cases where impact is, let's say, for smaller scale pilots, we have also mentioned this. So it becomes very easy to keep it updated when you have more research being done on impact assessment. And we hope to keep this updated every 6 months at least. Now you saw that there are a lot of use cases that you will also listen to from the other speakers. We also see that there are a few prerequisites and challenges to adopting AI at scale. Connectivity and energy is one. We see that there is a huge digital divide when it comes to connectivity and energy available to not just develop the models, but also to deliver the services once the models have computed and have come up with the models, come up with their outcomes. How do you actually deliver it to the farmers if they are not well connected? So inclusivity is a big question here, and that we see both as a prerequisite and as a challenge. Data ecosystem is equally important. We see that there is data available in bits and pieces, fragmented data. And in the first session, we also heard speakers say about how we can actually, as AI becomes more and more advanced, maybe synthetic data could be one way to go. So there are a lot of development required in the data ecosystem to also make AI work at scale. Human capacity is of utmost importance. So generative AI, it is very easy for us to use, but it may not be the case for everyone, right? Like ChatGPT, the interface is very easy to use, but it may not always be the case for everyone to use it for every use case. So we have to take a use case approach, and we also need to invest in building better user interfaces and user experiences for the small scale producers and others in the ecosystem. And this is one thing that private sector does really well, invest a lot on the user experience. This is also something that we have to learn when we develop solutions for the public sector as well. Governance and policy is another area where we see as both a prerequisite and challenge. We need policies that can help protect the farmer's interest, but at the same time does not restrict innovation in a way. And we also need to come up with ways by which AI can be responsibly scaled in the LMIC context. Public-private ecosystem is also one of the, or lastly, public-private ecosystem is another prerequisite or challenge. How do you make it easy for both the sector to come together, have shared goals, and create platforms rather than individual use cases or pilots? We see this as a future full of possibility. Things are changing very fast. We see more and more use cases coming up. Impact evaluations are being done for existing use cases. Use cases are being translated from one region to another. Parmesh mentioned Lalsagat. So he is building a use case in Ethiopia on site-specific fertilizer optimization. But recently, they also came to Kenya and tried out how their solution of fertilizer optimization can be transferred using some of the data from Kenya and how the same model can be applied in Kenya. So there is a lot of cross-learning happening. We also see this as a collaborative effort because not everything or not all the investments are sector-specific. We need some sector-agnostic investments also required. So we see this as a future full of possibility. And we see, from just coming with like a compendium of use cases and trying to answer these questions, we were actually able to come together as a team. We had more than 30 organizations who have actually contributed to the report, and we really value all the collaboration around this, and we hope to take this shared agenda forward. Thank you so much. Back to you, Parmesh.
Thanks a lot, Parvati. So it's just a brief introduction. A lot of you have heard of Parvati in the last where she dwelled the report in detail. Now we go to the use cases particularly, and also we are asking individuals to talk about their own institutional experience with AI. So I'll invite Stuart Collis from Gates Foundation to talk about that. Thank you, Stuart. Please, can we stick to the time because this is going to be very difficult to task for us.
No problem. Thanks, Pamesh, and thanks, Parvati. Just a quick sort of summary of when we started this journey of the Gates Foundation. Soon after ChatGPT was released, we started looking at our whole portfolio. And you saw a diagram earlier that sort of had these different sectors within agriculture where AI can apply. I mean, I think at this point, it's probably across the entire ecosystem of use cases, but where we really focused on were a couple of areas. One was very obvious, AI advisory services, which you'll see a lot of examples of that, but also in gene editing and some of the cross-cutting areas like weather forecasting. There's lots of other places where these foundation models and these transformer architecture techniques can be applied. And just coming into that with sort of general principles around, we need to develop data corpus. We want to sort of think about multimodal models, supporting locally relevant innovations, de-risking by leveraging the frontier models that already exist and not building new models from scratch. Building validation and benchmarking methods, open source and responsible delivery of AI. So just some of the sort of principles that we're working from. I'll just dive into quickly just one use case that we're really focusing on, and that's AI driven agricultural advisory services. So as has been mentioned a few times, the ratios of farmers to extension agents is not where it needs to be. Investment in R&D and extension in many countries is low. And so just imagine the possibilities of a smallholder farmer having access to any information that they need at their fingertips through a voice interface in their local language on demand is just potentially hugely transformational. We estimate that by 2035, across our 7 geographies, we could be reaching 43 million smallholder farmers with these types of services, accounting for adoption rates of 24%, and with a 15% productivity gain, you could be looking at a $3.1 billion per year economic gain. So this is pretty transformational. If you think about like the types of multimodal components we're talking about, most people think about language models when they think of AI. They're thinking about ChatGPT or something like that. But as you'll see from some of the other presenters, there's other components to this. Voice is super important for farmers that only have access to a feature phone today. We expect that to change and costs will come down and everybody will have smartphones and data plans. But at the moment, there's a lot of people that only have a feature phone and can call into a voice bot and get support that way. If you do have a smartphone or you have an extension agent or a lead farmer with a smartphone, then you can leverage multimodal. If you could generate videos, this is new functionality that's coming out. It's moving so rapidly, it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to actually honestly grant around these solutions, but we've got to be flexible to adapt to these new technologies as they come. So reasoning capabilities and agentic models. So two examples, ISDA's virtual agronomist, we've been supporting for some time. They've now reached over 260,000 plots. They're achieving yields of between 19% and 66% increases, which is really remarkable. And Digital Green, similar scale, reaching 276,000 farmers. Ricken will talk about this in a moment. But the chart in the bottom right, I just wanted to show this because this is super important, that it's not just farmers using these tools and accessing, but they're also constantly asking questions. So that insight is incredibly valuable. You can see this chart in the bottom right. The matrix there shows the topics that farmers asked about on the vertical axis over time. And so that's incredibly rich information that the service provider, the advisory service, the input suppliers, off-takers, researchers can use this information to improve and tailor their products and services for those farmers. And so just finally, ending on this idea of how do we scale these services? Well, I think, farmers are already using these services. They can improve. We need to put guardrails in place. We need to assess the quality, helping, drive those innovations to test and deploy in the field with appropriate guardrails and doing it responsibly. But there is a need perhaps for these national AI advisory delivery platforms where you can aggregate local content, provide capacity and AI engineers and all the people that are needed to build these solutions that are very hard to find today. Layer underneath that content, the agtech innovators themselves and information services like market prices or weather forecasts. And then we have an idea around some sort of global AI collaborative for ag advisory that is leveraging the frontier models. So the frontier models are where OpenAI and Microsoft and Google and Meta are all investing huge amounts into these models and these innovations. We need to take advantage of that. So this is a proposal right now that we're thinking about, and we'd love to hear people's reactions. And over to the other innovators here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Stuart. Stuart has tons and tons of material on AI, but he's really able to concise that into 5 minutes. I appreciate that. I would again like to warmly welcome. There are 240 people online right now. It's a very important topic for our online community, our knowledge network. And the kinds of questions they have asked till now are very, very insightful. And I'll encourage you to keep on asking questions on chat. We're going to harvest some of the questions and try to respond through the panel at the end. I want to include our long-term collaborator and pioneer. He's just been identified as World Food Innovators global recognition, just of the top 25 innovators in the world. So Ricken, CEO of Digital Green, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Parmesh. So at Digital Green, we've been involved in seeing how we can improve the efficiency and impact of agricultural extension programs for the last 19 years. We started with videos, buy-in for farmers, that could reduce the cost of adoption of improved sustainable agricultural practices by a factor of 10x, taking traditional training and visit type of extension programs and using videos to reduce that cost to $3.50 US. About 2.5 years ago, we saw the development of GPT-3, as well as many more of these farmers coming online and watching our library of more than 10,000 videos that more than 90 million people have watched online, create an opportunity so that these farmers and extension agents could then use a combination of local language voice, text, and images to be able to use an application that we call farmer.chat to triage questions and issues directly on their farms and not get generic ChatGPT or Wikipedia types of answers, but rather information like those proximate videos that these farmers were already creating and using and be able to leverage them for themselves. This basically flips the whole paradigm of extension, which for long has been translating research information to extension and then to farmers. And then, as Stuart just showed, can now enable farmers themselves to, on demand, take these pictures of crops that are going well or that they have problems with and be able to triage them for themselves. As you can see here, we've gotten about 3 million queries so far across the geographies in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa in which we work. What this creates is a dynamic flywheel of sorts, wherein as each question that a farmer or an extension agent asks in voice, in text, in image, then this creates data that can expose what are the actual needs and interests that these communities face and inform policymakers, researchers, service providers, and doing so then helps to inform the prioritization of improvements for these models, because out of the box, they don't always work great for the agricultural domain. We need to augment the vocabularies of these speech-to-text and text-to-speech models for domain-specific terms like hectares or chemical names that farmers don't use. They have their own vernacular. Or for images that these multimodal systems are great for, but are not tuned for the specific crop and livestock systems in these geographies where these farmers operate. But the data that these farmers are contributing as they interact with this system ends up being able to be used to create reinforcement learning with human feedback, flywheel loops that can improve these models and create a digital public good that other organizations can leverage to create their own AI systems without having to reinvent the wheel. I would also note that this doesn't just depend on providing the best advice for each farmer. We still need to build on the ethos of farmers needing to learn from one another. That's often the most trustworthy sources of information that farmers rely upon. In our videos, the first questions that people ask is, what's the name of the person in the video? Which village is he or she from? But now we can do that type of dynamic with these AI systems so that farmers can share their testimonials in the form of videos and photographs and voice notes that their peers can learn from, so that every farmer doesn't have to ask the question. They can learn from proximate farmers to say that if nearby farmers getting affected by a pest or disease outbreak, then perhaps their neighbors are too. And we can take the decision support models that CGIAR and other organizations like ISDA that we just heard about have been building and use large language models to extrapolate their coverage for adjacencies of similar agroecologies and commodities to benefit these farmers who are looking for not generic information, but really site-specific fertilizer or feed ration advice for cattle dairy farmers. And as I mentioned, every query, every image that a farmer or an extension agent submits becomes data that can make these systems better. And that's where we have these 3 million queries so far, and reinforcement learning with human feedback can be used, as you can see here in the screenshot, to have local agronomists like retired National Ag Research folks or CGIAR folks to go in and score and correct issues. And this then makes these models better in a dynamic way, because the whole point of these AI systems is to continue to be dynamic and more aligned to the needs and interests of these communities. Personally, what's most exciting for me is, having been in this extension work for the last 19 years, is this flipping of the paradigm of extension, and where farmers now have their choice to really solve the issues that they are confronted by on their farms. And as I said, that's resulting in this increase in efficiency by another order of magnitude, taking extension services that often cost $35 US to get one farmer to adopt one new practice down to 35 cents, and where farmers are not just getting a once or twice a month type of extension training program, but where they're now asking 18 queries per farmer per month, and where the rate of adoption of these practices is 4x what we found in our video work. 60% of farmers in a 40-day period applied practices that they were learning from farmer.chat. And where now these farmers can be in the driver's seat of shaping these AI systems to improve their lives and those around them, and inform all of us in the agricultural and technology ecosystem. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Rikin. And those of you who don't know, Rikin is an aeronautical engineer, has worked with NASA earlier. So it's a very interesting how he made this flip from being a NASA aeronautical engineer to working on agriculture for 19 years. I admire that thinking of doing that. But I think we are now talking about real life cases. We talked about a lot of concepts and what issues are there. Now we are getting into the actual cases of how this is being implemented. And Rikin's is a very kind of good case of smallholder farmers, most of them also women. So I think this is very replicable in our context. And we are trying to negotiate some kind of an arrangement by which they are able to work with us across geographies. So if you're interested, talk to him and we can create a mechanism for you to able to work with him. Thank you very much. And I'll now pass on to Ranveer. You already heard about very complex kind of things from him, but now he's also going to talk about a use case.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't have slides, so I'll be on time. So the last one I talked for longer than the time that was allocated. So I'm Ranveer. I'm with Microsoft. Been doing this for over 11 years now. So, at Microsoft, our key vision is to drive data-driven agriculture, to remove guesswork out of farming and to augment a farmer's knowledge with data and AI. So over the years, we've been building different things all the way from, and I presented in this seminar before, I think it was the first one, Parmesh, where we had presented, where we talked about the data platform and some of the AI capabilities. Of late, we are doing a lot of work on the generative AI piece as well. So we started, today I'll talk more about the use cases. How do we see we are doing the right thing and how do we measure impact? So we started with a lot of demos and sites that we lit up in the US. We started with here, there are multiple sites in the US where we set up. And like, for example, one of the farmers that we work with is in Eastern Washington. This is a 5th generation wheat farmer. Over the years, we've deployed different technologies all the way from, the first thing was just connecting the farm, bringing the data to the cloud, and then using AI in different parts of his farming operation, all the way from pre-planting to planting to post-emergence, harvest, post-harvest. And throughout that, we looked at how AI can make a difference in the farmer's operations. In this particular case, the farmer talked about different benefits. For example, he saved up to 38% of one of the chemicals that was used. He could double the amount of yield in his farm. These were all insights that we were giving based on data, based on artificial intelligence. One of the new things we started over the last few years was this, we set up a farm of the future in Baramati, and this was in Maharashtra. It's close to Pune. It's one of the drought-prone regions. And there we are now scaling it up to about, we have done the experiment with 10,000 farmers, and we are scaling it up right now. Essentially what this is a drought-prone region. We are looking at sugarcane to start with, but started to look at other vegetables as well. And we are providing insights to farmers. Here we are working very closely with KVK, the Krishi Vigyan Kendra in the region, to provide these insights to the farmers. And through these insights, like, we collect data from soil data from that place. We look at farmer data, we look at satellite data, and all of these data streams become important to make these insights more relevant to the growers. The kind of impact we saw, I'll just read from some of the stats people have shown, people have shared with lots of pictures. This was about 40% increased yield, 20 to 40% reduced labor costs, depending on the farmers, approximately 30% water saving. It was 25% input usage reduction, overall 30% cost reduction. So there are a lot of stats that has been published in that particular report, but that was just the starting point of what you could do with AI. We are replicating this in other places in India as well. So while we are doing this, this was all around multimodal AI. We started with, just collecting a lot of data, merging them using training models based on this data and making predictions which are very hyper-local to the farmer. The next thing we are working on is using generative AI. So we're building copilots. As you know, Microsoft is not an agriculture company. The way we reach farmers is through partners. So we've created partnerships with, for example, ITC in India. We work with Digital Green here as well. We work with Land O'Lakes here, Bayer Corporation, and many of the other companies through whom we are actually integrating all of the artificial intelligence innovations to bring a copilot to the growers. As you heard from both Stuart and Rikin, the benefits of this copilot is this is just getting smarter and smarter. A lot of the things you're seeing now is translating a lot of insights, advisories to the grower. The next thing which you'll start seeing is a lot of reasoning for growers as well. Reasoning is more expensive. What I mean by reasoning is, when you're asking these large models, when you ask them a question, sometimes it will just give back the response. In other cases, you'll see it thinking through things. It's a chain of thought. And that chain of thought could be customized to growers. So that's one of the things that is coming right now. The next thing you'll start seeing after that is agentic workflows. By agentic, what we mean is you look at a workflow. What does a farmer do? If they have to procure something, maybe they'll consult the agronomist, they'll consult the retailer, they'll do multiple of these round trips before the end thing is done. All of that can be programmed through AI agents. And with AI agents, you'll see benefits around productivity. A lot of the things that the farmer does will now be much more efficient in terms of cost, efficient in terms of time taken, and efficient in terms of the profitability of the grower. And we'll start seeing a lot more of that. And that's where a lot of our emphasis is right now. And the final thing I'll end with is this thing around, customizing these models in the future. My new role at Microsoft is around Copilot tuning. What we are doing is essentially taking Copilot, which has been trained on these large models, which have been trained on all the data of the internet, and customizing these models to the particular organizations. For example, it could be done at the World Bank. Imagine a large model that talks like you, thinks like you, and works like you. And that's the thing we are doing. Even though right now, a lot of the enterprises we are working with is across the board, across different industries, it includes agriculture as well. One of the key customers we work with is Land O'Lakes, with whom we are building these kind of fine-tuned models. But the vision that we have here is much bigger. This is a thing that Stuart and I were talking about. Imagine in the future, these large models which are fine-tuned for every farmer. That is, every farmer is an enterprise as well. They're a business, they're an entrepreneur, they're running an enterprise, their farm is an enterprise. Imagine these large models that are eventually customized to that particular farm. That will lead to a totally different era of AI. That's still the future. I'm saying it's the future, it's a longer term future because fine-tuning is still expensive. Fine-tuning it to the point of doing it for every farmer, especially smallholder farmers, will take time, but I think it will happen. The rate of innovation of AI is just immense, and I think it's just around the corner. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So if you want to learn more about what Ranvi was saying, there is a detailed presentation in the last session, those of you who attended. So that will be also available to all the online audience also, so that you get all the knowledge materials together. And now, so Copilot for agriculture is like a product thinking. Imagine how much market share Microsoft will get if it really makes this thing work. So it's an exciting prospect. Next, I would like to invite also a serial innovator in the CG system. I think Lal Saged is he never sleeps, he always innovates all the time. And Lal Saged Desta is Director of Multifunctional Landscape at Alliance Biodiversity International, CIET, which is one of our major CGR institutions working on the digital agenda. Lal Saged, over to you. Please come in.
Hello, Parmesh. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yesterday, we had some demonstrations in Nairobi, so the internet is a bit slow. I hope it will continue to work. Thank you for the opportunity. Once more, we are discussing very well in this area for some time now. We have done some work with colleagues and team members. So today, I will present some example for a colleague team of teams working in Ethiopia. We call them Coalition of the Willing, with different partners who join to bring data together and do some analytics to develop advisory. So it's not about the whole CGIR, and it's not about the whole alliance of Everty and CIAT. It's a small segment of the work we are doing. Otherwise, there are very fantastic work being done by different colleagues. So we are trying to explore AI and all the new language models for agricultural transformation in Ethiopia. We started with a small work. Next slide, please. With a small work a few years ago to bring data together from different sources. So the first idea was, how long have we need we to work on agronomy trials every time without utilizing the data that is already available? So the first step was to bring all those data sets together from different sources and develop an advisory system by integrating farmer input applied at different locations related to landscape, climate, covariates, and develop using machine learning algorithm to develop that advisory system. So we called it Next Gen Advisory. It is based on location specific generally. It is season smart, customized to the upcoming season. It also fits into the local context in the area with soils, topography, and so on. So that has been applied with partners, including Digital Green. Rekini presented some examples there. So we piloted with first using our data sets through videos. Then now we have IVR, text, and other means to disseminate the data sets. We have different partners taking out the data into use to the extension and farmers. So Digital Green is one, the government is one, another private sector are also there, which is called LERSHA. And also now we have different actors joining to implement those. The next slide, we started with piloting. Okay, thank you. So we have piloted this across more than 100,000 farmers now. And earlier it was validated and tested, and we have up to 38% yield gain. Also, very good water nutrient use and other efficiencies, and also cost effective. So that has been already known, and the communities are demanding for it. As you see, there are certificates, requests, and demands to use it. And the first one, we had already developed a strategy, Gates Foundation supported through CGIAR, and we have a strategy developed for that. It is a national platform also to implement. And the next step is, okay, we said, okay, we have used the data available, integrated with covariates and advisory disseminated. But the next step is we want to make it more hyper-localized. We want to get input from the farmers, feedback from the farmers, not only feedback about what they use, but also additional information about what they also additionally implement, including what have been they doing before on that plot, in terms of organic input, in terms of any additional activities, the labor availability, and so on and so forth, so that we can re-customize that advisory to fit into those farmer circumstances. So this is one very good point which we are doing now to supporting AI, supported by AI technologies. And we hope the coming year or so, we'll have an advanced work in that respect. So the hyperlocalization, as we also mentioned earlier, can be a bit difficult to get data from smallholder farmers. But we are also trying to make sure that we also gather the data in terms of text, in terms of voice, in terms of message, and so on. And it can be in different language. So the challenge is, how do we bring those together to feed into the modeling exercise so that the advisory will be readjusted and customized? Again, we are collaborating with different partners to work on this. So the progress is there, and we have now tried to scale this exercise into Kenya, to Ghana, and Malawi. As Parvati mentioned earlier, we are trying to do some work in Kenya in collaboration with World Bank and other partners, and we hope that will succeed. And then we are moving into Malawi and Ghana as well, and even in Latin America with our alliance colleagues. The next slide. So one of the challenges, we always say the best solutions would be reserved for those who need it. And for us, technologies like AI are more appropriate and useful for Africa and African smallholders. The challenge will be the analytical things are there. We have advanced AI solutions, but the data is a critical point. So I think we have to devise mechanisms to acquire, collect all the data that's available so that our models can be effectively used for Africa and other developing regions. So robust data foundation is very important. Ecosystem partnerships, co-developing AI solutions with different partners is important. It was also mentioned earlier, inclusiveness is very, very necessary. There is power shortage, there is mobile shortage, there are resource shortage, and then the digital divide can be higher unless we pay some kind of attention. So the data part, acquiring the data, all the data available in different forms at the lower grassroots level will be very critical, and I hope the AI technology can benefit that. So we are trying to build data where it matters, and also we try to design AI, co-design AI with colleagues where it is needed the most. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks all again. Thank you very much.
Thank a lot, Lalskar. It gives us a lot of confidence because you're able to try this solution in Ethiopia on a reasonable scale. And I think this example has already inspired a lot of other countries in Africa now to test these solutions further. So I think we consider you as a lighthouse example, and congratulations for doing that. And we continue to engage with that. And it's related with our colleague Sergey, who's here, is working on the repurposing agenda on fertilizer subsidies and all that. So I think it is, if we are repurposing fertilizer policies and subsidies, this will be a very important contributor to change the way we will deal with fertilizer subsidies and really able to reduce subsidies, but also make it more optimal. So I think it will be part of how we think about this agenda, both at the policy level and the operational level. I will now continuing with the CG system. I think we have very good contributors from the CG system. Now I'll ask Josh Woodard, who is a consultant with International Rice Research Institute, and he will describe how IRI, our collaborator also on many things, we worked on one academy on next gen rice with them. How are they using AI in their work? Over to you, Josh.
Great, thank you so much, Parmesh. And originally on the agenda, my name was listed as Joshua Woodard, and I said, please take out the UA because it's only Joshua and my mom is angry at me. But then they added a W into my last name on the slide, but no problem. You got it right, Parmesh. So I'm Josh Woodard. I'm consulting with IRI and supporting them on digital and data at the moment. So for those who don't know, IRI, the International Rice Research Institute, this year is its 65th anniversary. So that is 65 years of research in rice breeding and agronomy. And that is 65 years worth of a whole lot of data in this space. And as part of this 65-year anniversary, IRI just released a new strategy for 2025 to 2030. And within that, digital transformation and AI is really an integral part. And I think, part of that stems from this sort of realization that there's the ways that things have been done in the past, in order to be able to keep pace with the challenges that the world is facing today and moving forward in terms of with challenges related to climate, food security, they need to find ways to really accelerate a lot of their work and amplify their impact. And that's going to be done, in part through much better data management, which is one of the things that I've highlighted here, but also through partnerships. IRI cannot do this alone. So it needs to partner with other public sector, research institutions, private sectors to make this happen. So I'm just, in the interest of time, I just have two examples here that I'm going to share. One of them is AI-based screening of accessions, of rice accessions that IRI is doing using machine vision. And so just to give you a sense of what they were doing before, so from 1977 to 2023, when they were using traditional means, they were able to assess around 18,000 rice accessions for flood-tolerant traits. And then they used, together in partnership with Google.org, they deployed this AI solution, and they were able to, in 1 year, screen over 60,000 rice accessions. IRI has in its gene bank over 130,000 rice accessions. So you can see if they kept on the pace of where they were, it would have taken them several lifetimes to evaluate all of those traits. And this is just all of those accessions just for one trait. So now they're rapidly increasing that. And it's resulted in a process that's now 10 times faster and 16 times cheaper than traditional methods before. And you're probably, for those of you who are, your brain is instantly just going to running numbers, you're thinking to yourself, well, that seems a lot faster than 10 times because it took you, 40 plus years to do 18,000, and then it took you 1 year to do 60,000. But that, see, when things are slow and burdensome, you may be less inclined to do them as much as you are when they're faster. So if you look at the start-stop time, it's about 10 times faster. But obviously, in terms of the scale, it's more than 3 times the amount in 1 year that they'd done in 40 plus years prior to that. And then the other example is new, which is recently launched, is the Global Artificial Intelligence Hybrid Rice Platform. So this is really helping to optimize hybrid rice breeding. So looking at different traits of parents to kind of predict the highest yielding F1 hybrid combinations, and to help to make that process a lot faster, so you can start to, instead of having to test almost infinite amount of combinations, you can optimize and say, all right, we're going to test these 20 combinations and breed those initially to find ones that are sort of most optimized to both productivity, but also for different market traits and market demands that might be needed. So together, just 2 examples of some of the ways that ERIE is already starting to use and think about AI to optimize its breeding. But ultimately, why any of this matters is because if ERIE is able to really dramatically accelerate its ability to breed, evaluate traits, and bring new rice varieties to market that are better aligned to the needs of the market, better aligned to changes in climate and other changes that might be happening, it's going to have significant impacts on food security. But ERIE is just one part of the equation, so it needs to we need to partner with others as well to really make this happen. And that is my last slide. In the interest of time, I'll just leave you with a little bit of a long quote, which I won't read. You can read it yourself, from the Director General of ERIE, Yvonne Pinto. But this sort of talks about sort of how, from her perspective and her leadership, where ERIE sees the opportunities for AI. And with that, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Josh, and giving us a perspective that it's not only about farmer-facing, but it's the back end, the way varieties get developed and all, and the way they get introduced. And for all your information, Yvonne Pinto was our lead innovation consultant with our data team for 2 years. And we are so privileged that she's heading ERIE now. And it has led to a lot of interesting collaborations coming with ERIE as we go forward. And I think those of you who don't know that World Bank has invested in CGIAR around $30 billion over so many years. And to see that 30 billion transformed into such innovative kind of things is very exciting for us, those who have already felt that CGIAR has not achieved its full potential. So I think AI may enable CGIAR to use its decades of research to be converted into application. Even what Lal Saget talked about is the CG system, using all their fertilizer trials and data and condensing them into relevant advisory. Then you have the rice varieties being released at such a rapid rate. If they will release at a rapid rate, it has significant implications on food security. Thanks a lot, Josh, for sharing that. Josh, for those of you don't know that he also was leading USAID's work earlier on digital agriculture, and he has been a close collaborator with us. He didn't mention his earlier incarnation, but I would like to tell you that he has tremendous experience and has led that change in the USAID earlier. Now the next, again, going with the CG system again, I would request my good friend Elaine Ubalejaro, who is the CEO of ICRAF and CIFOR, which is again a very big CGIAR institution based out of Nairobi, to come and share her remarks. Over to you, Elaine.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. So if we go to the next slide, just want to say, you were talking about Yvonne and I had the opportunity to be in DC together for the Planet Summit in February. So it's really exciting to be able to see how we're all working together in this direction and to be here together for the release of the report and the larger energy around AI and where we can take this forward to. We'll look at the next slide. So one of the things for us at C4 that's really critical is how food security and the future of agriculture are linked to climate change and biodiversity loss. And we cannot look at this in isolation. We know that forestries and agroforestry landscapes possess some remarkable capacity to shape the course of the world's most pressing challenges. And so this is where we work at C4 Aircraft. And what we see is that it's really critical that we look at access to a data-centered ecosystem at the heart of all the work we do. We need actionable, high-quality, scientifically credible data across all sectors to address today's interconnected challenges. We must identify what data matters most fast. Data describes the past and the present, where we've been and where we are now. And with predictive models, we can look at where we want to be in the future and how to get there. And it enables a better way to process data and understand these potential futures, where we're going and how we might adjust our trajectory, knowing climate is changing, knowing biodiversity needs to be restored, and knowing we need to feed a growing population around the world. From my work, what I believe that the right AI can help us translate trajectories into action and scale these positive outcomes faster and more effectively. And forests are major components of the biosphere and lithosphere, also contribute to the atmosphere and the hydrosphere. Go to the next slide. What we do at C4 Aircraft, we have two initiatives that are highlighted. And firstly, it's really one of the things we're really excited about is how do we release this data together so that AI solutions are more effective for smallholder farmers? And everyone before me has talked about it. And secondly, it's putting this data in a format that's accessible. This is what really we need the right AI to do. In our scientific research, we treat it as a pipeline from field collection to processing and innovation and action across the public and private sector. We know that AI is crucial in connecting these dots and going from data to scientific knowledge, action, innovation, enabling finance, and de-risking it. It needs to be the right data translated into the right knowledge to create right impact. At C4 Aircraft, for example, initiatives such as the Africa Declaration on Artificial Intelligence that was passed at the recent Global AI Summit in Africa, we're supporting these types of initiatives because the declaration seeks to fulfill the potential of AI to drive innovation and competitiveness to advance Africa's economies, industries, and society. And importantly, it prioritizes ethical, trustworthy, inclusive AI adoption. We go to the next slide. Landscape degradation surveillance framework is an example of such a solution. It is a data commons for the global soil and land commons, supporting decision-making at various levels. Over a decade of soil and land health data from across 3 continents has informed our understanding of this global land commons. AI helps integrate this data to our locally relevant landscape decisions. It enables accessibility, verifiability, peer review, enables consensus building, enables innovative approaches to research practice, shows where data is strong, weak, and non-existent. What also is really great about LDSF, it's an open access methodology with shareable data. And it's used for baseline assessments to understand the current state of land health and degradation in the landscape. It helps monitor and evaluate, track impacts of land management interventions, and it helps us understand the drivers and dynamics of land degradation and recovery. And in terms of capacity development, we train stakeholders in the collection, analysis, and reporting of land health data. So this allows us to work with smallholder farmers and farmers everywhere in a participatory way. So it's really about how do we work together with farmers so that not just users, but they're also helping us build the needed pipeline. In the last slide, in conclusion, this report shows the potential of AI to accelerate sustainable agricultural transformation, as well as agroforestry, if we get it right. It means investing in interoperable, scientifically robust data systems and building tools that are context-specific, cost-effective, and accessible. It also means treating data as a public good and aligning AI with governance that supports sustainability, equity, and resilience. C4 Aircraft, we are committed to advancing the right AI that turns knowledge into action for people and planet and prosperity. We see this report and the team's leadership bringing us all together here. It's a critical first step. And I'm grateful for this and look forward to continuing to collaborate with all of you. Thank you. Please feel free to reach out whenever it makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Elaine. It's a pleasure. This case on LSDF is a very important one, monitoring biodiversity and all in a traditional way. hotspots get identified much faster, actions get taken much faster, all the data from spatial, temporal comes together. We think it's a very exciting use case in future for also our environment colleagues and the whole for the Planet GP. This is one of the most important use cases there. Thanks a lot, Elaine. Much appreciated, and we look forward to collaborating with you as we go forward. I would now like to bring in another collaborator, Chris Hamill, who is the lead of the UAE Gates partnership in the Presidential Court of UAE, who are working on an agri-LLM model right now globally with CGIAR and lots of other collaborators. Over to you, Chris.
Parmesh, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm conscious of time. I will do my best to stick within the guidelines here, Parmesh. Just a couple points from our side. First, to congratulate you, Parmesh, Parvati, and the team for your leadership in this space, for convening us, and for the report, which we were very happy to contribute to and peer review, etc. This topic broadly, AI, is of really great interest to the government and leadership of UAE. Back in 2017, UAE launched a new ministerial level position, Minister of AI. So leadership has been interested in thinking through the needs, requirements, opportunities at a governance level and at a public sector level when it comes to AI for quite some time. Since then, over the last year, you might have seen in the news, there have been a number of UAE international engagements and partnerships built around AI, with France, with Italy, most recently with the USA, launching a new massive data center, 1 gigawatt, able to scale up to 5 gigawatts over time, that will be hosted here in Abu Dhabi. So AI will not only increasingly be a part of domestic policy, but will increasingly be a part of UAE's international engagements and development cooperation going forward. And then just last week, we launched for the first time, I think anywhere in the world, a cabinet level slot for artificial intelligence. So the UAE's national AI system will in fact be a recognized participant in cabinet level discussions and other bodies to start to solicit input and guidance as one of many channels of input into leadership and government decision making. So I think again, this puts UAE sort of on the vanguard of how to think about using these technologies, how to use them responsibly, but start innovating, pushing the frontier there of innovation. So that then leads us to this context. Last year, UAE was proud to join the CGIAR System Council, I think as the newest donor member, and I think the first coming from our region. And over the last year, we've been working very closely with many of our partners who are here in the room and online to start to think through how UAE might best be positioned to contribute to the CGIAR and agriculture development more broadly. Of course, UAE is a specific context and environment, very resource constrained in some ways, but also having strong capacities in others. And we quickly landed on the idea that AI and applied AI in this domain could be an area where UAE could really try to contribute in terms of making new global public goods, using convening power, using compute, different sorts of resources that we might have access to be able to help the community. So with that, I'll sort of close on my last point, which is what you can expect coming out of the UAE over the next year or so in this regard. So at the end of this year, we will be launching a UAE CGIAR AI hub based in Abu Dhabi. And we expect that AI hub will develop several flagship products that can help support the CG. We've heard from several CG colleagues today, similar to what Josh mentioned on the gene bank and the breeding work. We are now in discussions and scoping exercises with the CG system organization team to start to identify how we could build some platforms that could unite some of these different activities that are happening at the center level and try to create resources and and sort of system level platforms and technologies. The first of these is what we're calling the Agri-LLM, and this is a project that is focused on fine-tuning open access large language models with as much information as publicly and in some cases proprietarily available related to agriculture research and agriculture development. This was announced at COP29 and will be launched at COP30. So far, we've got CG centers, World Bank, FAO, IFAD. We have some other national level research entities as well coming on board, as well as at least one large one. And we are already starting to see preliminarily some pretty strong results, some clear indications that fine-tuning language models, even not the largest ones, but moderately sized publicly available language models, there can be a significant increase in performance when pairing as much data as available with question and answer pairs coming from the broad expertise base that's available throughout this community. So we're really looking forward to launching that at COP30 and then to working with this community to sort of roll out and test and innovate and improve this Agri-LLM project. Sort of as a contribution, we don't expect this to be the only fine-tuned agricultural LLM out there, but maybe as an opportunity to make a public good that all the community can experiment with, and that could then lead to other similar foundational works. In closing, I'd just say that's the CGIAR AI Hub is the first, but there are a few other efforts underway. As Stuart mentioned, we are interested in leaning in significantly on this facility that he mentioned, or community of practice that could find ways to crowd funding into supporting Southern countries as they start to develop their own Gen AI and other products, trying to help capacitate countries, provide compute to countries, and make some of these other publicly available resources customized for their own needs at that local level. So we expect to have some announcements related to that work at the end of this year as well. So looking forward to working with all of you. Thanks for inviting me here to present our vision and contributions. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Chris. So clearly, the challenge in the whole AI world is that we can't do this only at the national level. There's a lot of data available at the global level. If all countries start from scratch and they don't take advantage of the global analytics and all, then it'll go very slow, and the countries, the AI divide is going to even widen. So I think what we look at in terms of working with this initiative is that we are providing data to them. We are data providers as World Bank. We also will become the users of the questions. So our idea would be that to create a subscription service for all teams and governments from this thing, and we just charge $100 subscription fee. So how do we productize this whole thing, global one? And then we are also talking about some local level national AI labs, which will really build the capacity to build use cases, because the ability for a global thing to build use cases not closer to the ground is very limited. So how do we develop a federated model of global, national, and actual use cases which are developed on a continuous basis, so that over a period of next 3 years, we have almost like 40 to 50 use cases, which again, through feedback, go to everyone, and everyone reduces like we discussed, the variety. So extension services, the fertilization is the same problem. Everyone is facing the same problem all over the world. So how do we collect feedback and create a very kind of a simpler cycle of adoption as we go forward? So many thanks, Chris. It's a very good contribution, a global public good contribution, which we hope to work with you as we go forward. So last but not the least, I want to invite Soren Gigler, our head of the digital economy program at GIZ. Again, a very good knowledge partner and a collaborator with us. Over to you, Soren. You are last. You realize you are between lunch and us, but I also have to bring the audience because They have asked almost like 40, 50 questions already. And audience is very active, and we know from our past experience. So I'll pick 4 questions out of that, and my team has selected the most important questions, and I'll then run it through everyone. So Soren, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramesh. So first of all, congratulations to the launch of this terrific report. And it's been a great pleasure for us to contribute to it. So quickly, our digital transformation cluster at GIZ, we are around 150 people working in 50 countries. And we have the Fair Forward program on AI and data economy on data, and then GovStack on DPI. So we bring all these different worlds actually together, and we have a strong local presence on the ground. We also have created 24 digital transformation centers in the countries, and we work very closely with our partners, government, civil society, private sector, and donors on the ground. So now, quickly, we, for instance, developed the agricultural information exchange platform together in India and in Kenya. And it's basically empowering local farmers to use chatbots to improve the digital services and extension services in local languages to really farmers in the field on advising them, also a lot of women on which crops to plant, and for instance, climate resilient crops. Also, we work with the local development research institute, also in Kenya, on weather service and weather forecasting. Another use case I really wanted to mention is we work closely with Ushahidi in the Tana River, and there the issue is citizen-generated data and how citizens themselves can generate data that can be then used. We work also on data spaces. So, for instance, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, we work on national data spaces and have advised the government on that. Now, here are 7 key lessons learned. So the first one, it's all about data. It was already said, but 80% of the value created through AI is based on data. This comes from Oxford Internet Institute. So second is at the same time to work on data governance and AI governance on policies at the national level. So we have strongly supported development of AI and data governance strategies in the, close with the African Union Commission in the Africa region, have with the Data Governance in Africa Team Europe program for the first time supported a regional continental data governance framework. This is the foundation for AI. So basically, almost half of African countries still don't have any data regulations, no data protection. So it's also really important to work on the policy side and empower governments to use AI for good. Third, it's all about local appropriation, localization. There are more than 2,000 languages in Africa. So our chatbots and our AI applications are very localized and really reaching the most vulnerable and poor. And it has to be localized and people need to be empowered to appropriate AI and data to improve their livelihoods. This brings me to the inclusion area. So it's also really critical to work with women, marginalized groups, and voice basically to empower them to really benefit from AI. And because we are very concerned about the increasing AI divide, which is also based on computing and other infrastructure issues. The fifth is on capabilities. So we have done a lot on human capabilities. We hosted the AI data bootcamp in South Africa, empowering women to use data and data analytics. Without the skills, without the AI capabilities, it will be very limited, the use of it. And but 2 more points. The last is, almost last one is, was mentioned also, important to put in place social and environmental guardrails. because there are also significant risks associated with the use of AI. And it's very important to improve also the guardrails and to have safety standards also concerning data. And the last but not least is all about partnerships. So we work closely with the World Bank, we work closely with FAO and others. Also here, Digital Green, others mentioned. So we come together and we have one approach. We've done this also a lot in West Africa, in Senegal, and with the European Commission as well. And if we come together as a community and have one more common approach towards this topic, we have bigger impact. So thank you so much. And again, congratulations to you and the team. And we're looking forward to close cooperation going forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Soren. I think it's been a very intensive period of engaging, and I really appreciate the online audience. So because since you have asked so many questions, I have to pick 2 out of your questions first. And in that period, the people here, if they want to ask anything, I'll also give you an opportunity so that we can conclude this in the right time. So the question which is coming, and I'll also say who that is addressed to, because we cannot answer every question to be addressed to everyone. And so one of the questions people are asking that how can we increase farmers' trust in AI tools and ensure accuracy of responses given the biases and applicability of challenges in online content in tools like ChatGPT, which are discovered now? So that's people are saying on how do we ensure accuracy, reliability, to do it. This was discussed in the earlier sessions also. So Ranveer, can you take this question? And I'll also raise the same question to Rikin, to you also.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, the models are getting better. Number one, they're being trained on more data. But I think that's where there are different ways in which people ground the information, and that grounding is becoming better. Previously we heard from Christoph about fine-tuning models. That's one way. Better retrieval techniques. People are working on different ways to do retrieval, which is another way you can make it better. At the same time, with AI, the way the entire LLMs work, it is stochastic. So there is this probabilistic way of what is the next thing that will be generated. So it's always going to be a little bit of that. But, the way you can both do things before, that is what you feed into the large model itself, how much grounding there is of the large model on the data. And after that, that is, can you add additional checks to make sure that what has been said is actually correct or not. So doing it at all 3, and the more we do it, it makes it expensive, just to be clear. But, in the future, the more we do it, the more it will get embedded in the models itself. Right now, most of the ways we currently do it is through all of these steps. The last step, which is what we call guardrails around responsible AI, around checking for grounding, just making sure that everything, the citations are correct, and all of that can help improve trust in the answers from AI.
The other bit I'd say is related to what Stuart said, that in CGIAR's own estimations, only 5% of their info was represented in some of these models. And so that's true for even research data, which is actually pretty public in various publications. But it's even more true when it comes to the small scale producer type of segment, where there's just not data about who these people are and what kind of questions they ask, what kind of vernacular they use, what kind of pictures they might take. And so that's where using reinforcement learning with human feedback on not synthetic questions or questions produced from afar, but actually the real farmers' questions can make a huge difference. And as Ranveer showed, even in his slides about fine-tuning these models with some of those golden question answer pairs or comparators of different model outputs can make a huge difference. And then you have to also add on, as Ranveer just said, various types of red teaming and bias testing, especially since we want to focus on women farmers and more marginalized communities, to make sure that there aren't biases to either the reward function of these AI models or policies that these AI models are following. But doing that can make a huge difference in terms of reducing hallucinations and being more aligned towards the needs and interests of these small-scale producers.
Thanks a lot, Ricken. And a lot of presenters are saying that we are presenting a lot of smallholder experience. That was the focus of this event, but they're asking that whether there is work happening with other people in the value chain. So AI is not just on the smallholder side. As Parvati presented, there are many other cases. So Parvati, can you address this? And then I'll bring Stuart and Josh into that conversation as well.
Sure, thanks, Parmesh. So if you look at the report and the compendium of use cases, we have identified cases across the value chain. So we heard from Josh on how it can be used in research. We also see a lot of use cases emerging on knowledge discovery by bringing together databases on research and how it can be made more accessible and actionable. We also see a lot of use cases coming from inclusive finance and risk mitigation, so credit scoring, alternate ways of doing it with non-traditional data sources. But like I said, when we build this compendium of use cases, we looked at the impact and what has already been scaled and deployed. And we saw that majority or most of the use cases that we could find, mostly from the small scale producer perspective, was on extension advisory. But that does not mean that AI has not the potential for the other parts of the value chain. For example, recently we did a soil health challenge in Kenya where we saw multiple use cases on supply chain optimization coming up using AI. So how we can use machine learning to create scenarios of different shocks in the system and how it will affect supply chain. So there are use cases emerging, but I think it was not in numbers as much as what we saw in the extension advisory. Thanks.
Stuart, over to you.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this at the beginning of my presentation that we looked across the whole portfolio that we have, and yeah, we sort of certainly identified, as everybody has, that these generative AI solutions are very good for overcoming, access to knowledge and information for smallholder farmers that we've struggled with for so many years. But yeah, equally, we see opportunities in genomics and trait identification, phenotyping, so improving the sort of research process, making that more efficient and faster. Weather is another place that we're focusing on. So some of these AI models, as you've probably seen in The Economist and other publications, that's advancing really fast. I mean, those models are almost as good as the numerical weather forecasting systems. And if you can provide a much more accurate short-term forecast or seasonal outlook, then that can have a huge economic impact. Earth observation is another area, these foundational geospatial models where, instead of having to download 20 years of satellite data, if you could just run inference on a foundation model built on Earth observation data and get sort of an indicator of change that might be happening in a geographic area, there's lots of applications there. And then I'd say one area that we're not really thinking that much about, but maybe should, is around just the overall efficiency gains across institutions. Like if you start to use AI within your research organization, within the Ministry of Agriculture, this, personally, I see this every day in my own work, that, there's just huge time savings that can be gained. And in a world where we have less and need to do more, that can really have a great impact, I think.
Thanks. Josh, can you come in quickly?
Yes. So, I mean, I think in terms of, why are there are a lot of use cases you're finding in the advisory space or Gen AI. I mean, I think, that's where a lot of the hype is. And so a lot of things sort of follow the hype. That doesn't mean that there's not good stuff that happens out of that. But, I think there's lots of other things, to Stuart's point, that are happening in the space that maybe aren't getting as much exposure, excitement, or coverage at the moment. And I think there's, great opportunities for thinking about how do those integrate into some of the advisory type services. So for example, if you look at the stuff that Erie is doing, what if you're able to feed that into like farmer chat, where a farmer who is, based on their local conditions, maybe they need a rice variety that is more flood tolerant, is more resistant to or tolerant of salinity. If you're able to do much more rapid trait testing to identify rice varieties that are available on the market that are better suited to that, then you can have this more sort of optimized advisory that says, well, given your local conditions, here are the varieties that might be best suited and for these reasons. And with that, I will stop talking because all this talk of rice is making you probably hungry.
Thank you very much. So one point which I think we might have missed in this report is that there are almost 39 agribusiness companies, according to my research, who have started using AI very centrally into their agribusiness business, sourcing from farmers, creating value for products, value chain and all that. So I think there are a lot of big agribusiness companies which have already changed the business model because we have so much focus on smallholders. Maybe we have missed that part of the innovation. Maybe next round of work we do jointly with IFC, we look at this, and I see Anoop here, so it's a good segue that we could in the next session talk a little bit about how do we look at the business side of it and see how we can invest in those companies which have already incorporated AI in these models, whether it's the large companies or startups and things like those. That part of the thing is missing in our current report. And I think we should look at that part there. And that's what people are asking. Are you working with others in the value chain? Are there enough models there? We can take a couple of questions from here and then we'll close. Yeah, Katrina, go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, Katerina Schrader, Senior Economist in the Data and Digital Agriculture team. My question was inspired by Rikin's presentation, though I feel it's applicable to other speakers as well. And I wanted to get your reflections on what it took to bring farmer chat from one country to another. Was it a seamless transition? Was it starting from scratch every time? So for us, when we aspire to scale these solutions, across the globe, what should we be sort of preparing for? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Katrina. And I see Soren has raised his hand, so I'll give a floor to Soren first, and then I'll come on this question to you, and then we'll close it. Soren, over to you.
Thank you. Two remarks. First, I think we should invest even more in the creation of hyper-local data. So, for instance, we support the Lacuna Fund exactly for that, because the current AI applications are primarily based in the global north and do not always reflect the local socioeconomic, cultural context of our partners in the global south. So it's all about supporting local data ecosystem locally. And then on the stakeholders, you said smallholder farmers. So based on our experience, it's also equally important to empowering governments to actually better share data within government and then open up for data sources that then can be used for chatbots and also provisions to local farmers. So it's also equally important, I think, to work with governments and to improve their sharing of data and making data more accessible. Thank you.
Important points: hyper-local solutions, local data, and working with governments. All three very important points as we go forward. Let's answer Katrina's question. Rikin, can you go ahead?
Sure. I think, we basically follow a bit of a sequence when we enter into a new geography. To begin with, you want to make sure that these models aren't going to result in any negative outcome to the farmers. So we generally will start with a small deployment in a new country with extension agents or agronomists to help with the review and establishment of benchmarks. And then there's also a consideration with regard to languages. So in certain geographies, there are out-of-the-box models that one can build from and augment rather than try to reinvent or start from scratch. And the last thing is also a consideration of, obviously, there's data costs and connectivity, which also is an important consideration for a lot of these tools. And so we partner with government or in some cases, telecom kind of organizations to, for instance, zero rate the application so that for farmers it would be free, or the extension agents it would be free. So there's a bit of a sequencing to getting each of these pieces of the puzzle up.
Thanks a lot, Rick. And I think with this, I think we will have to close this because we have a second session coming at 1:30. I want you to have relax and have lunch at least for a significant point of time because we've been busy since morning on this. But I don't know to summarize that, but clearly we spent the morning talking about the report, what have we found out, what's coming out of these 60, 70 use cases, not the end world. I think this will be an active repository where we will update, and as we are getting new ideas, this is a consultative workshop for the report. The report is not getting finalized until we incorporate all these inputs we have got today, and very rich set of comments we got and the rich set of presentations. But today, the second part, I also want to thank the online audience for showing sort of interest. 250 people joining in from all over the world. So which means there is huge interest in learning about this globally. And the use cases will clearly tell us what is happening with that. And I think these use cases are at different stage. Some have already been piloted and have started going to scale. Some are ones where we still don't know fully about whether they are working and what is the impact. And then as third is the areas which are outside the typical farmer-facing inputs, which is discovery. So personally, I know of a lot of companies which are going into the business of biologicals and microbial things and all. They are using AI from the very beginning and biotechnology. They're all using AI very centrally as part of their business because they are reducing the cost of discovery of the products by almost half, as we found in Erie case as well. So I think the businesses, new generation of businesses which will come in related things will do business differently. The business models for delivering services to farmers will also undergo a change. We clearly getting a lot of telecom companies coming to us. Can we work with you to develop this, to integrate this with the telecom offerings? So, and then fintechs and agtechs, as we know, are coming to do that. So I think we will have to carve out a very different business model to deal with this going forward in AI, which will have government as a part of it, but it will have a lot of private sector and the other people in the global public good foundations to be part of it. And so we really welcome all the people who contributed to this session today. I really deeply appreciate your contribution to the report and the session today. And we will now have at 1:30 p.m., we are taking all this to all our managers across the institution, which is IFC, Planet, Digital. We hope all of them will join. And then we will see what are the implications for us going forward for next 3 years, because that's what we are very interested in, that we just don't talk about it, but what do we do in the next 3 years differently as we go forward. And once again, thank you, and we are cordially invited to lunch. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.